The Cosmere can be a confusing place.
From allomancy to surge binding, there's a lot to look out for.
We're your hosts and escorts to the realms. I'm Griff.
And I'm Alex.
And this is the Silverlight Guide to the Cosmere.
Good time of the day to you, bookworms. Giving this episode more thought, I wanted to go ahead and put a disclaimer at the start. I am going to be putting the spoiler sound where I think it is appropriate, but we did manage to spoil all of the Cosmere in this episode. So please, if you have not finished Mistborn series, the Stormlight series, Elantris, Warbreaker, Yumi and the Nightmare Painter, Tress of the Emerald Sea, Sunlit Man, the Arcanum Unbounded short stories, we have managed to spoil everything in talking about general Cosmere theories. So don't listen after the spoiler sound when we're done talking about the secret project number 5. And thanks for listening. Welcome back, bookworms.
Indeed.
We're here again, and we're going to be talking about the secret project number 5. After these messages from our sponsors. Just kidding.
I wish we had some.
Yep.
If anybody knows anyone that would be willing to sponsor us, or sponsor anyone, turn them our way.
Yeah. Skillshare is
Squarespace.
Yeah. Make your website with Wix. For legal purposes, all of those were jokes.
Yes.
All right. So, what do we got? I put my hand right in front of the mic, and now it sounds like
well done.
Brilliant. I had to itch my nose.
I was about to say you're doing a Bane impression there.
Damn, I used to know these lines by memory. I was born into it, molded by it. I didn't see the light until I was already a man. You merely adopted the dark. I forgot that part. I forgot
on a tangent, I was never wholly pleased with that portrayal of Bane.
That's fair. My one redeeming factor for that is that Tom Hardy, without exception, is excellent.
Oh, don't get me wrong. Tom Hardy was good, and he played the hell out of the character. I just wasn't super pleased with the character they wrote for him, because I don't feel like it really well portrayed Bane as I knew Bane. And I understand that was kind of part of the Dark Knight series, was a new take on these characters. But I feel like there are probably other, especially with pairing with Talia al Ghul.
Yeah.
I feel like there are other characters they could have paired her with rather than Bane that would have made more sense.
That's fair.
And conceptually would have worked a little bit better, because the whole thing about Bane was that he was a luchador wrestler that made a drug that made him super strong.
Right.
And there was because if you look at Joker in the second Dark Knight movie, he is a twist on the original Joker, but you can definitely see the influences of Joker there.
Right.
And in the original with Ra's al Ghul, do they call him Roz? I don't remember.
Well, for our intents and purposes, Ra's is correct.
Yes. Okay. Anyway, and the whole Scarecrow thing, you can see, with Scarecrow, you can see the original Scarecrow in there and everything like that. With Bane, there was nothing. There was nothing that I could really see from the original Bane in that character.
Yeah, that's fair.
Anyway, sorry.
Tangent to the tangent.
Yeah.
Did you see that the people who made Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse movies, they approached Sony for a Batman movie.
Oh.
And Sony said, okay, but you can't do Batman Beyond. And then they put together a cut for a concept of that. And then Sony said, okay, maybe you can do Batman Beyond. So potentially we got some of that coming down the pipeline.
I will, if they get to do Batman Beyond, I will be super excited.
Yeah.
I was always a huge fan of the duality between Wayne and McGinnis and how that plays out and everything like that, and the internal, and especially when you can see Wayne's kind of internal struggle of trying to give up the mantle of Batman, even though he still doesn't feel like he still feels like he is the Batman. And so seeing this push and pull, it was super interesting.
Yeah, so hopefully we'll have more of that. But now on to more topical news.
Indeed. Secret project.
We are 2 weeks in to the backer kit being launched.
Right.
And this is what we have. We have a live stream where Sanderson answered questions, and it was the launch party. And then yesterday we had another live stream where they showed most, if not all, of the plushes.
Right.
They're not finalized.
Right.
But you can see most of them.
And I am going to be interested in picking up definitely the Inkspren. And possibly a Cultivation Spren for Lily. She feels Edge Dancer is the closest one for her. So cool.
Yeah. We did get, if you watch the live stream, and I didn't watch all of it, but I am debating on whether to get all of them or just get a few.
I would like to get all of them over time. I don't think I can order all of them in one go.
That's fair. So here's what you should know.
Right.
Bookworm, if you're thinking this too, they are ordering enough. The backer kit numbers, they'll order for the backer kit, and then they're going to order several thousand more of each.
Right.
With the intent that when they put them online to purchase after fulfillment is done.
Right.
That they do not sell out immediately.
And I know that they also wanted to put some on sale at Dragonsteel Con.
That will happen if fulfillment is done.
Right.
So
I would like to over time pick up all of them. Even then, with the amount that there are, I'm not entirely sure I'll be able to make that happen.
I agree. And I personally believe that if the plushes are a success, that for the Oathbringer Leatherbound, which inevitably they'll do 2 years from now or whatever.
Right.
They will simply bring back the plushes to order, and they'll order another batch.
So then in that case, I might pick up what's most important for me this batch.
Right.
And then ideally, if there is another batch coming down the line for Oathbringer Leatherbound, I'll pick up the ones that I missed from that point.
I just don't see... I totally get them only ordering several thousand for, they have Doomslug number, the plushes that they have the numbers for.
Right.
How many sold at Dragonsteel? They could probably expect a 1.5 to 2 times rate of that at Dragonsteel, if not more, depending on how many people.
Right.
In my mind, I don't see it as an option where this is the only time in the span of all of Stormlight Archive, all 6, first arc, second arc, that they would offer the plushes.
That's true. I agree. That's a good way to look at it. And
if one of the Dragonsteel team is listening to this and you're like, that's a really good idea. Maybe we should get that back to the big guy. I am available on a part-time basis.
We are available for consultation.
Yes. We have lots of ideas.
Yes, we have lots of ideas. You are welcome to hire us as freelance consultants.
Yes.
You don't even probably have to credit us.
At least one of us.
I see.
Maybe.
I mean, just pay us, please.
Right. That'd be fair. So, I expect, that is my gut intuition, that they're not going to do all of this work on designing the plushes, picking out the stuff, and even if they go with a different company to make it when Stormlight 6 comes out or whatever, like they've already put in this work.
Yeah.
There's really...
Oh, also, my Sanderson box came in.
Oh, good.
Yes. So it's sitting at my mom's at the moment.
Oh, nice. Yes.
Yes. So
good.
So I have that. So now all I need to do is show up at Dragonsteel this year.
Yeah.
As a Sandmaster. Which is my plan.
Yes.
And get the cosplay pin.
Yes.
And then I will have the entire first season set.
Yeah. Unless the pins that they've designed for the Spren are also Series 1. And then...
Which I am going to be ordering them, by the way.
Oh, really? You're going to get all the pins?
Yes, I think so.
Oh, okay.
I think like I may not shoot for all of the plushes or whatever, but I think pins are going to be something that I'm going to seek to be completionist about.
Sure.
So I know I'm getting paid this Wednesday. When I do that, I'm ideally going to sign up for the backer kit.
Okay.
And I know it doesn't end until the end of March.
Yep.
So going to sign up for the backer kit. Obviously, I'm not going for the leather bound.
No.
That's more power to those who can and have the money and all that jazz.
Sure.
But no. Going to go for the Secret Project. Going to go for the pins and 2 of the plush.
Cool.
That's my current goal for the backer kit. Now, if I end up with a little bit more money and I want to put more forward, I know that up until the backer kit ends, you can keep adding funds to your order.
I imagine even after the backer kit ends, as long as you've pledged, you can then edit your pledge.
Yeah, you can. That's true. That's true. So I plan to do that, and then I'll pick up more of the plushes at Dragonsteel Con, assuming they have some.
Right.
And then, like you said, I may wait up past that point to collect the rest during future opportunities.
Sure. Yeah, so let's talk about the Secret Project.
Yes.
So you've seen pictures of the mock-up?
No.
So it's purple.
Okay.
Except during the live stream, they said that it was going to be more reddish than that. It'd be more mauve.
Okay, so kind of like a more maroon type thing. Okay.
So not Sunlit Man red.
Right, but well, yeah, Sunlit Man was almost like fire truck red.
Yeah.
I see this being was more like you said, kind of a mauve or a maroon type color.
Right. Right. I mean, Maroon 5.
That would be a very, very subtle joke.
Yeah. Dragonsteel, if you're listening, we are available.
Because it's the 5th of the Secret Projects, and then it would be maroon. So
yes.
That would be a very... But that would be the kind of joke that I would appreciate. So,
and I believe in his live stream yesterday, which was not a spoiler live stream at all, he mentioned that some people are guessing correctly as to what the Secret Project is going to be.
Okay, so clearly it's not going to be a complete out there
Yes.
It's not going to be like the Frugal Wizard's Handbook or something like that. Like it's going to be something that is so...
It says, so to remind everybody, when they dropped it, when they did the 631 thing, they said, Cosmere, Future Era, highly connected.
So, okay, here's my initial idea.
Okay.
What if it is a...
There are 2 options I see.
Yeah, the first thing that comes to mind for me is a canonization and continuation of the short story he wrote that was the sequel to Sixth of the Dusk.
Yes.
That's the first thing that comes to mind.
Yes.
What's the... Because clearly that was one of the ideas. What was the other idea that you had?
The Night Brigade.
Oh, yeah,
that he went ahead and he jumped off Sunlit Man.
And decided to write a story about the Night Brigade.
Right. Which...
Yeah, I could see that.
If you haven't read the Sunlit Man, the Night Brigade is not big spoilers.
No, it's not huge. It is somebody that is mentioned and we get information about them, but...
Really quickly. So that is not spoilers.
Yeah. Yeah, no, they're like right there in chapter 1. So...
Yes.
I will say I'm leaning more towards Sixth of the Dusk.
I am too.
Although what I could see that would be interesting would be, depending on what he considers future era, it would be interesting if he wrote the formation of the Night Brigade.
He is saying this is the furthest in the timeline.
Oh, then yes. I'm leaning definitely towards the continuation of Sixth of the Dusk.
I agree.
Because I agree that Night Brigade would be interesting. I think that he has set them up as antagonists in such a way that I don't think he would write from their point of view yet.
I also think because the Sunlit Man, we can't tell exactly where it is in the future.
Right.
It wouldn't make, but I would hazard a guess that Sunlit Man takes place before Tress, Yumi, and the Sixth of the Dusk.
Yes, I agree. That is my leaning as well.
Putting that out there, then writing about the Night Brigade post Sixth of the Dusk,
right,
doesn't make a lot of sense. Though in the Stormlight Archive, we do see pretty heavy use of flashbacks. Every book has flashback character. He could do something with that.
Yeah, potentially.
But I just think statistically, if people are getting it right, the highest chance, I think, is the Sixth of the Dusk sequel. Though that isn't to say that other things he's mentioned, like Aether of Night, and I don't really remember any of the other smaller works that he said, or like the Grand Apparatus.
Right. I mean, he could obviously be writing something that is... I just see... Okay, so here's the thing. We already know the Sixth of the Dusk based on the sequel short story, which isn't canon. I'm still... I do acknowledge that right now. We already see Rosharans, and we see...
Scadrians,
thank you. I kept thinking Elantrians, and I'm like, that's not correct. I know that's not correct.
Yeah.
We already see, Rosharans, we already see Scadrians, and Sixth of the Dusk is obviously heading out to find allies.
Right.
And so I definitely see that as being very connected, because obviously he has a way of entering the cognitive realm, which I don't know how. That is something that I'm intrigued by, that he apparently has some way of entering the cognitive realm.
Right.
But on top of that, I could see it being very connected, because he's going to go to anyone that could potentially be an ally.
Yes.
And so that could bring in the Eerie, that could bring in other Elantrians, that could bring in Salians? I mean, because...
Salians?
Well, there's more than just the Elantrians on Cell, so...
Right.
I don't know what the word for the...
Cellish,
thank you, yes. So the other Cellish...
Nalthians,
Taldeans,
Thranodites,
exactly. Somehow. Like there's a lot of options for him to go to for allies through the cognitive realm. Yes. Honestly, even potentially other Scadrians and other Rosharans, depending on, we don't know the exact state of whether those planets are unified entirely.
Right.
So the fact is that I could see that being a very connected thing, where we see who he goes to and who he is able to recruit as an ally to keep their planet free of the conflict between the Scadrians and the Rosharans, because clearly there's something going on there.
Right.
So,
yeah.
I definitely think that is where my vote is
sure.
Sixth of the Dusk sequel.
Yeah.
Probably starting with a refined and canonized version of the little short story that he already wrote.
Right. That would make sense. We will be able to find out after next Thursday or Friday's live stream.
Okay.
They are going to do a title reveal and first chapter reading.
Okay.
Though
I also kind of wish, sorry, this is a bit of a tangent.
Sure.
But I would like to see him finish at some point that Kingmaker series that he was writing.
Right. So it could be that.
It might be. Yeah, we don't know.
Probably
I
not.
don't think so, because at least the first chapter that he read of that didn't seem to put it. It actually seemed almost previous Six of the Dusk.
Sure.
Like same world, of course, but it seemed to precede it time-wise.
Right.
Now, we didn't have a lot to go on. I could be completely reading that wrong, but that was the feeling I got.
Sure. Yeah. I believe they are going to maintain secrecy once more on calling it Secret Project 5 instead of by its title. Like I mentioned in the last episode, the part 2 of the backer kit, I did not feel that the story was spoiled in any way by knowing the titles for the secret projects.
Right. I will say that I think on this one, I don't feel like we're going to need to maintain. I know we kind of, well, we tried to at least go in blind.
Right.
On the four
we did on
initial
Tress.
secrets. We were able to on Tress. We were able to on
Frugal Wizard, though I had accidentally learned that it was not Cosmere.
Right.
And then,
but then you found out the 2 titles for the 5th, or for the 3rd and the 4th.
I did.
Now, on the 5th, I don't... Well, I call it the 5th, and yes, technically it is. This rings different for me in a way, and I don't quite know why, so I don't feel like we need to go in blind on this one. I feel like we can discover the title just fine. And
I think for community's sake, if Sanderson is holding to the secrecy, that we will maintain, we will only talk about the title behind spoilers.
Yes, I agree. That is definitely something we should maintain.
We won't put it in episode titles. We won't put it in the doobly-doo, and we will edit out any accidental mention, except if both of us, we might have time next week to at least discuss it and maybe put an episode out on if we listen to it.
Right. Well, and I think and we will only talk about the title after we have put a spoiler warning for those who care about maintaining or the secrecy of even the title, which to each their own.
So I mean, we've known Wind and Truth as the title of the book for a while, and all it's done is led to extra speculation about, well, what does he mean by truth? We know that the wind is Kaladin.
Right, of course. The truth could, interestingly, be Shallan.
Could be Shallan, could be Renarin. Could be Zeth, who's no longer truthless.
That's true. That is very true.
It could be that it's so vague and broad that it applies to everything and therefore is meaningless.
Yeah.
Which I expect is not the case, but I do expect that just like unite them could apply to so many things that Dalinar does. Spoilers.
Well, see, so here's the interesting thing for me is the fact that this book is going to, in its entirety, have to encompass the upcoming challenge between Terravodium and Dalinar.
Right.
Because we have had foreshadowing to some extent, but we've had no practical build up to that confrontation.
Right.
So it'll be interesting for me to see how much of the book is focused on that and where it ends up as, like, if it's going to end up as the climax or not.
Oh, like the duel between the...
Yeah, the duel between...
I had a thought. I expect... I'm really torn there too. And we'll get more into this when we theorize with Stormlight memes and generic entertainment.
Right.
I do see we know it's 10 days between the end of Rhythm of War and the start and the duel.
Right.
And we know that in that time, Dalinar expects Kaladin to get Ishar and bring him there so that Dalinar can learn bondsmithing.
And this is why I think that Dalinar is going to be his own champion.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I know people are still, like, I've seen on Facebook, people are still speculating who's going to be who.
I think...
And I still think that Dalinar is going to be his own champion. And I think that it is going to be the one and only time that he is allowed to call on the Stormfather as a shard blade.
Right.
I have seen people saying that Gavilar, was that Dalinar's brother? That he's going to be Odium's champion, which
absolutely
I'm just like,
not.
I don't.
Absolutely not.
Yeah, no, I don't see that being. I think the obvious option is Moash. I don't think that's going to be...
I don't think that's the case.
No, I don't think that's going to be who Odium goes with. I think that Taravangian is also going to put a new spin on things. Because Odium might have been shaping Moash to be his champion. But obviously Taravangian has similar goals but different designs. Mm-hmm. He's operating on a different wavelength than Odium was.
Right.
Which his host was
Raze.
Thank you. So I'm interested to see what Taravangian, because clearly when Taravangian was reviewing the contract of the duel, he mentioned something about being able to work with it or something like that. So clearly he doesn't feel as restricted by the contract as Raze did.
Right.
So
I'm going to have to go back and listen to what the contract explicitly says, because if there's a way that Dalinar can manipulate the situation to become Odium's champion and then lose.
I think, what was it? If he lost, he was going to stay trapped on Roshar for...
If Odium loses.
If Odium loses, yes. He is trapped on Roshar for another...
He's trapped in the Rosharan system for 1,000 years.
For 1,000 years. If he wins, he is still... Wasn't he still trapped?
Right.
But Dalinar would be his servant.
Yes, would lead his armies.
Right. So I am curious about whether or not Taravangian will see Dalinar winning. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what Taravangian makes with the contract.
I agree.
Because obviously if Dalinar loses, that was what Odium wanted from the beginning. He wanted Dalinar to be his champion. That was what he initially saw when he set the
thrill. No.
The thrill. The thrill on him that Dalinar would fall. And that's what Renarin saw in his vision. But obviously that did not come to pass.
No.
So I can see why Odium would bargain for Dalinar to be leading his armies as a condition of him losing.
Right.
But I feel like Taravangian might have a different goal in mind. So I feel like, I wonder if he's going to try to manipulate it so that Dalinar wins, but that actually still plays into what Teravodium is aiming for.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. And all we have is that Sanderson used the ending of Stormlight 5 in one of his campaigns in like college.
Oh,
like,
okay.
That's when Sanderson came up with this ending.
Interesting.
And that's all we know. Which just makes me think it's going to be a tie, but in a really specific way.
That might be, yeah.
Yeah. Jumping off tangents. I was talking with the Sandbox, Trevor, who was here for our discussion of Threnody magic.
Right.
And we were talking about autonomy. And that made me end up on the Coppermind website looking at autonomy.
Right.
And so the army of gold and red, right? I didn't catch that it said that they were difficult to control. And that once they're unleashed, they're difficult to control. Okay.
I vaguely remember that, but yeah, it was kind of a throwaway line. It wasn't.
Yeah.
It was.
Here's my simple idea.
Huh.
Red from autonomy, gold from odium. They are men,
right,
in quotations, created by autonomy and odium to serve their purposes.
Yeah, I could see why that would make them hard to control.
Because then you only have half.
Well, because you have odium's passion.
Right.
Of a lot of, well, mostly anger.
Sure.
To be fair.
Self-loathing.
Right. And then you have autonomy's desire for individuality.
Right.
And lack of... I still...
Yep.
Balk at the...
I know.
But it's a hill I will die on.
But if they're made up of half autonomy and half odium, you know whatever the percentages are,
right?
Then not only just based on what they're made out of, it would be difficult to control. If they're like the lifeless from Warbreaker or something like that, then I could see it being that autonomy would have to exert much more control to control all of them.
Well, also, so here's an interesting thing. If they are made by odium and autonomy,
right?
We have whatever the metal was that autonomy shoved into the brain of the Khandra that was
right,
that fell in love with Wax.
Palm.
And so therefore if that's, we still don't know exactly what the metal does.
We
obviously.
Don't. We know it's called Trillium.
Right. We know it's called Trillium. We know what radium does.
Right.
Which allows the transfer of investiture. Sucking it out, because that's what kills I guess spoilers, major spoilers, but that's what kills the pursuer.
Navani uses the dagger to put anti-void light into Raboniel. The pursuer is killed by
L.
Oh, at the very end. You're right. You're right.
Yeah.
Forgot about that.
No problem.
But I just listened to the Raboniel thing.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah.
That's why it was fresh.
Now, so yeah, but it flips. It can either put investiture in, or it can withdraw investiture.
Right.
We don't know what Trillium does. However, we do know that it has something to do with potentially breaking control because of what it did to Palm.
Right. Like severs connection?
Potentially, yes. I could see that being an option, which would also
make it difficult
to control them, because
right.
if her metal is a major component of the construction, then it would make it even more difficult to control, to exert control over them.
Throwing on another level of unknown complications. Autonomy and Odium did it after they killed Devotion and Dominion, and so they used some of Devotion and Dominion's stuff that was just kind of floating there. So
okay, so
it hasn't been confirmed that autonomy helped.
I'm not saying it's confirmed that, but here's an interesting theory.
Yeah.
What if the reason that Odium shoved Devotion and Dominion into the cognitive realm was so that they could harvest Devotion and Dominion's investiture if they need to rebuild or build more of their army?
Yeah. That could be good.
I'm not saying that's what Sanderson is going to go with,
course.
but it would make sense of why Odium did that to Devotion and Dominion, but not the other shards that he splintered.
Right. Yeah, we're going to have to read and find out.
Yeah, that'll be interesting to see.
But that's where I'm putting my money on for the red and gold. army.
Yeah, no, I can get behind that.
Yeah.
Because we do know that it was a reddish metal that was found in Paalm.
Yep.
That was obviously Trellium. So
Yeah.
the red and gold does make sense because we know that Rasium is a gold colored metal. So,
and if Odium wants Dalinar to lead his armies, then so Sanderson has said that the way to get Spren off of Roshar is in Rhythm of War, which I believe is talking about the perfect gemstones.
Yeah, that would make sense because we do know that it's possible because obviously Wit showed up with
design.
Hoyd, sorry, I was trying to remember his actual name. Hoyd shows up with design in Yumi and the Nightmare Painter.
Right. So it's possible. Somebody asked in the live stream, Spren can't, cross in the cognitive realm, but what if they had a spaceship? Could they leave the Rosharan system? And he said, no, you would find out what it is to, or if a herald was on that spaceship, it would remove their spiritual self from their physical self.
Oh, that would be very unpleasant.
Right. And then he went on to say the way that to leave is in Rhythm of War.
Okay, because we also know that, so here's an interesting thing. Do you think that Sunlit Man's ability to leave, do you think that has a thing to do with his Dawn Shard, or do you think he left with his Spren in the same way that others have?
That's a good question.
Because the Dawn Shard might be a way to circumvent that specifically for somebody who has been bound to it and can do the teleportation thing that he can. But I also don't know if I don't know if that would work or not. Actually, I'd be interested to ask Sanderson if.
Alternatively, here's speculation. Whatever Honor's splinters become, whether it's Honor again or Unity,
right?
Assuming that happens.
What was the Sunlit Man's name?
Sigzil?
Sigzil, thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, we're gonna put major spoilers in the title of this episode.
Absolutely.
We have spoiled everything. We have spoiled literally everything.
No, this is definitely a major spoilers episode.
Except Tress. We haven't spoiled Tress.
No, we haven't. Barely.
So
although I don't think there's anything that ends up in Tress that we have not discussed. We just haven't specifically mentioned that it ends up in Tress. So
right. Rhaina, the Elantrian, is in Tress. There, we spoiled Tress.
Actually, what I would be interested to find out is now that Hoyd has all the investitures, as far as we're aware, all of the major sharded investitures. Sharded is not a good word.
Let's maybe do a hypothetical where Hoyd has all of the investitures that he needs.
Right. Well, because so obviously we know he has Scadrian.
Yep.
He's a Mistborn.
Right.
He is a Feruchemist. We know he has access to Feruchemy.
Right.
I don't know whether or not he has had what's the third Scadrian one? Hemalurgy. Don't know whether he's had any hemalurgic spikes.
We know that he has them, not inside of his body necessarily.
Okay.
Sanderson has coyishly said, how do you know that they're inside of his body?
Gotcha. Ooh, that brings up some interesting concepts. Okay, so we know that he has a Spren now.
Yep.
He has a cryptic Spren.
Yep.
A lie Spren, I suppose. A cryptic. He has breath.
Yep.
I'm like 99% sure we've seen.
Well, yeah, because Odium messed with it.
Right. Yeah, of course. Yeah. We know that he tried to get Elantrian powers when he was on Cell before, but he doesn't get them until Tress. Oh, well, yes, specifically Elantrian. That does not necessarily mean he has not been able to tap into any other of Devotion or Dominion's.
Right. He has
investiture.
He carries a what's that? It's not an Aeon.
Oh, yeah. The black one, the reverse Aeons.
Ska zone?
Something like that.
Scooby Dooby Doo.
the black Aeon thing.
Skaze.
Yeah, the Skaze. We don't know whether or not he's been able to attain Sand Mastery.
And from what we can guess,
probably not, because autonomy does
never.
Not.
Yeah.
Autonomy does not like Hoid whatsoever.
Hoid will only be able to get autonomy's investiture of any kind once autonomy is dead.
Right.
Once the vessel of autonomy is changed.
Now we do know that Hoid was Hoid from the Sickness planet?
Yolen?
Yeah.
Not Ashen, but Yolen.
Ashen. Well,
Ashen is the one that's not necessarily, well, Ashen is in the Rosharan system, and Sanderson was playing around with a magic system based on getting disease.
Right.
And then Yolen has the bone something, whatever, that causes things to like turn white, and it's like a plague on the planet. That only certain areas are safe or something like that. But that's also not canon yet.
Okay, so we know that he has quite a few. And then somehow he made his eyes glow when he faced Kelsier in the cognitive realm, and I still don't know how he did that. Because the only other thing that we've seen that makes the eyes glow is having a spren attached.
Yeah, I mean, Occam's razor, there's a lot of different ways to light weave.
Probably, but at the same time, it seemed like... Because he's getting his ass kicked by Kelsier.
Right.
And then he says something about, like, being sick of it or something like that. And his eyes glow and he seems to stand up, like, from all of his injuries. Which initially made me think, oh, shit, he has Stormlight. Because, like, Stormlight heals all your wounds and it makes your eyes glow. But clearly that's not the case, because the secret history takes place before any of the Stormlight archives do.
Right.
So I'm still curious on... Oh, but I wonder if was the Dawn Shard that he held.
Could be. Could be that he had breaths.
Could be that he had breath. Do breaths make your eyes glow?
Did we ever see anybody heal with them?
I don't think either. So maybe.
Maybe.
Yeah, that's hard to say. We don't really have any evidence one way or the other.
I could see Sanderson doing a thing like, if you're highly invested, parts of you glow.
That could be, yeah.
Right, like Elantrians. Do Elantrians glow?
They shine.
Yeah.
But but not just their eyes. It's like their whole...
Sure.
Their whole thing is silvery. Like, they're silvery. I don't know if they glow, per se. We know the Aeon door does.
Yeah.
Because it's like lines of light in the air that you draw with.
Yeah.
Which I'm interested to see, because we clearly see that they can bond themselves to other planets and still somehow access investiture that way.
Oh, sure.
Which...
I still think it's once Elantris was fixed, it's just go.
No. That doesn't work, though, because when... what's her name? The soul caster.
Yeah.
When she stamps herself into an Elantrian, she has to stand on that little symbol and align herself with Scadrial.
Oh, okay.
Before she's able to access her abilities.
Oh.
So clearly they have to bond themselves to a planet, and I don't know if they directly tap into the investiture of the planet at that point. Because clearly they're not still accessing the Aeon door in that case.
Didn't she drink one of the jars of Aeon door?
She used the Aeon door to fuel her transformation into an Elantrian.
Right.
Through the soul stamp.
Oh, okay.
But she didn't use the investiture of the Aeon door from that point, I don't think, to power her abilities. That was what the symbol drawn on the ground was for.
Unless, and this is just
speculation,
and then I'd have to put aside the thing that she draws on the ground. We know that Rayana and the Eerie were harvesting Aeon door. So Rayana on Lumar and like the Aeon door powered the transformation. There's nothing to say that it couldn't have also been used by Shai at that point to then do Elantrian magic.
It's possible, but
it's possible.
I still think that her drawing on the ground.
Well, if the Aeons don't change, which is a question we need answered. If the Aeons don't change.
Yeah, that's a fair point, because that's true. What if the Aeons are different per planet?
Right. And then how would you learn them unless you can intuit them being an Elantrian, which okay.
Maybe.
I could see that.
Although maybe not, because we do know that in the story of Elantris, we get the report of the Elantrian fucking up the healing drawing of the Aeon door.
Yes.
And screwing that lady over with like only a half-life or whatever.
Oh yeah.
Which is how we kind of find out what happened to everybody in the city.
Sure.
It's now that doesn't mean you can't intuit the Aeon door for each specific planet, but it would also tell me that there has to be some study going on. And it's definitely something you can mess up. Like it's
yeah. I don't know
either, because maybe you're right. Maybe the only thing the symbol is needed is to connect to the planet's investiture, so you can use Aeon door on that planet.
Yeah.
But that still doesn't necessarily name where the energy is received from.
Right.
I don't know.
I don't know either.
But yeah, what I will be most interested to see, this is getting back to the secret project. If it does end up being the Sixth of the Dusk sequel.
Yes.
What I will be interested to see is whether or not it's ever explained what happened to Sixth's other bird, the black one.
Right.
Because something fucked up the minute that machine was turned on, and clearly it hasn't been fixed. Like, it's still showing him faulty visions of his death.
Right.
Also, are we going to get any other birds? Like, is that his way of accessing the cognitive realm?
Probably.
I wonder if another bird has that ability.
Yeah. Or several, and then, they do it like you come to the shop one day and you want to go to the cognitive realm, put the bird on your shoulder.
Right, yeah.
The bird will take everybody through. And then you're left there and the bird can bring whoever back. I could see that being
It'll be interesting to see whether or not he gets any active investiture abilities.
Sure.
Because currently it's the two from the bird. The one bird that hides his cognitive presence, because for some reason all of the creatures on that planet learn to hunt by psychic brainwave detection. Which is an interesting way to hunt.
Why not?
Oh, I'm not against it by any means. I actually think it's really fascinating, but I do find it funny that the one bird that they find is the one that hides their cognitive presence.
Right.
And then he has the bird that can show him the future.
Right.
And those are the only two that we've seen so far.
Right.
Though, again, they now know that other birds can be given these worm parasites that allow them abilities. So it's not to say they haven't been experimenting.
Right. Yeah, it'll be really interesting to see. So I guess we'll find out next week.
I guess we will. I will say that it's interesting to see both Scadrian and Roshar in a very antagonistic light.
Yeah.
Because they're both trying to exert pressure on this planet for their specific investiture system with the birds.
Right.
Which is interesting. Because from what I can tell, and of course we've only seen 2, so this is massively uninformed. But they don't seem overly powerful. It doesn't feel like something that the Scadrians and the Rosharans would be fighting over this vehemently.
You know, it's probably that, like, Mraize or one of the Ghost Bloods had a particularly powerful one, and the Rosharans and Scadrians are both like, well, if it happened once...
Yeah, maybe.
So Scadrial versus Roshar, drafting shards to be on either side of that conflict. Here it is. This is what's going down.
Okay.
Harmony becomes discord.
Oh, okay.
Manages to split. We've already talked about this.
Right.
New thought. Autonomy comes in to pick up the pieces. Why? Autonomy is a fan of Kelsier. Kelsier is like, well, we don't want to be part of a Cosmere-wide hive mind.
Right.
So we're going to get Autonomy to come help us against Unity. Because I still firmly believe that Dalinar is going to become Unity.
Unity, you think he's gonna access Honor's splinters and form a new shard?
Yeah. Yeah. So it'll be Autonomy versus Unity.
Ooh,
Cold
there's
War.
an interesting thing.
Yeah.
Well, because if he becomes Unity, and Odium is able to get him as his general for his armies,
if he loses and becomes Unity,
that's what I'm thinking. Like his ability as Unity would maybe allow better control over the Golden Red Army.
Okay.
Because if he has the powers of Unity, that would potentially counteract Autonomy's influence.
Right. And then it becomes the Force Awakens mad dash to find Luke Skywalker instead of Luke Skywalker, it's intellect.
Oh, interesting.
Because Autonomy is like, the only person I'll listen to is intellect. And
yeah, that would be interesting because, because we know that Mercy fought potentially both Autonomy and Odium, but at least Odium.
Yes.
Because they were trying to protect Ambition.
Right.
So obviously, I think that Mercy would end up on the Scadrian side.
Okay.
Because I think that she would inherently oppose Odium.
Right. Now, if Odium were... Now, let's say Unity wasn't Odium's general. Let's say Odium escapes Roshar.
Okay.
And Autonomy and Odium are now buddy-buddy.
Right.
So now it's Unity versus Autonomy, and Odium's on that side. I would see Mercy as part of Unity, part of Unity's clubhouse.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if Unity is opposing Odium, then yes.
Yeah. Who else do we have? We have, let's say, Ruin and Preservation. Discord splits into Ruin and Preservation.
Right.
And those are pretty clear lines.
I mean, yeah, Ruin is on Odium's side. Preservation already was on the Scadrian side of things and wanted to preserve the planet. So
okay, and then here it is. Because you can't split 16 three ways.
Right.
It's Unity versus Autonomy versus Endowment. And Endowment is over here trying to pick up the pieces, trying to find intellect, so on and so forth. So we'll leave you with that thought. Comment down below or do the Q&A thing to tell us who you think would be on whose side. Email us at guidetothecosmere@gmail.com.
Definitely.
I think that's
that's
probably
pretty
about
much
it.
Yeah, I think that's all we really have to talk about today. This was kind of a freeform one, so
Very freeform, spoiled almost everything. Let's go ahead and Warbreaker. The curtain drop is at the very end of the book. The last line is where we get the word Warbreaker.
yes. In Sandmasters, it's found out that pushing yourself almost to the brink with Sand Mastery is the way that you become stronger.
Yep. And Threnody, the White Fox is Silence Montaigne.
Yes.
And does she die at the end? I can't remember.
No, she's protected by the spirit of her mother.
Yeah.
Which tells me that the spirits have a semblance of intelligence.
Right.
Because it doesn't kill her.
At least a semblance.
Even though it could.
The 10th pancake is an allegory from Edge Dancer.
Oh, right, yes.
In Dawn Shard, Risen becomes the Dawn Shard.
Yes.
Grabs the Dawn Shard of Change.
And seems to exhibit some...
heightened,
some breath heightening abilities.
I feel like if you're holding enough investiture of any type, that's one of those things.
I don't necessarily think that's true because we don't see that with Stormlight or with Scadrian abilities, and we know that a single shard blade has more investiture than the entire Spear of Destiny did from Scadrial.
Right.
And we already know that the Spear of Destiny was more invested than pretty much any singular person is on Scadrial.
Right.
So the Rosharans should be showing some of that ability without needing to hold the Dawn Shard.
Unless the third heightening is like above. Which it's probably not.
I don't think so, because what heightening do you need to be to... Because, like, I think the only thing that would match it, because the only time we see any weapons that mimic Dawn Shard, or Shard Blades, is things like Nightblood. And you have to be of the...
like 1,000 breaths.
Yeah, so, like, they're definitely on par with the highest heightening of...
Okay, so it seems like Endown was just like, well, you get access to this stuff earlier.
Or I wonder, so we know that the Dawn Shards were created or were used in the creation of the universe.
Right.
It was what Autonalcium used to create the universe.
Right.
So what if each of the shards also falls within one of the Dawn Shards camps, I guess? So the reason we see the heightening of colors and stuff with Endowment is because Endowment falls within Change's quadrant.
Okay. Yeah, I could get behind that. I like that.
So I guess we won't know until we see more, but...
Right.
Anyway, now that we've spoiled pretty much everything and speculated a little bit more, I'm going to say, don't panic, World Hoppers.
Life before death, strength before weakness, and Yumi doesn't die at the end before destination. Okay, I think we spoiled everything.
Yep.
The music you hear is Part 3, The Spirit, from Zavadilla's The Music of Elantris, produced by B-Roll Records. Available now on Apple Music, Spotify, and most music providers.
If you like what you hear and you want others to hear it as well, please leave a rate and review. It really helps us get more listeners.